Mark sat alone at the café, stirring his tea absently as he scrolled through photos of his daughter on his phone. 3 years since the divorce, and weekends without Emma still felt hollow. He didn't notice the 3 identical little girls watching him from across the room until they approached his table. "Excuse me," the bravest one whispered, "could you pretend to be our dad? Just for a little while?" Little did Mark know that this strange request would change his life forever. If you're touched by this story already, please hit that like button and subscribe to see more heartwarming content that reminds us how family can find us in the most unexpected ways. Mark studied the 3 identical faces before him. They couldn't have been more than 7 years old, with matching braided pigtails and worried expressions. His parental instincts immediately kicked in. "Where is your real dad?" he asked gently. The middle triplet, distinguishable only by a small butterfly clip in her hair, glanced nervously toward the cafe entrance. "He's supposed to meet us here, but he's really late again. There's a lady over there who keeps looking at us funny, and we think she's going to call someone because we're alone." Mark followed her gaze to see a woman with a concerned expression, phone in hand. He understood immediately, 3 young children alone in a cafe would naturally raise concerns. "I see," he said, making a quick decision. "Well, I'd be happy to be your temporary dad. I'm Mark, by the way." "I'm Lily," said the one with the butterfly clip. "These are my sisters, Rose and Daisy." Mark pulled out the chairs beside him. "Nice to meet you, flower girls. Why don't you join me until your dad arrives?" The triplets climbed onto the chairs, visibly relieved. The concerned woman put her phone down, apparently satisfied. "Would you like some hot chocolate?" Mark offered, signaling to the waitress. As they waited for their drinks, Mark learned that the girl's father, David, was chronically late, a single dad struggling to balance work and parenting after their mother had moved across the country for a job opportunity 2 years ago. "Dad tries really hard," Rose explained, "but he forgets things a lot. He works 2 jobs, added Daisy, the quietest of the 3. "He says it's so we can stay in our house and go to our school." Mark felt a pang of recognition. He knew the challenges of single parenthood all too well, though he couldn't imagine managing triplets on his own. Their conversation was interrupted when a harried-looking man burst through the cafe door, scanning the room frantically until his eyes landed on the girls. Relief washed over his face, followed quickly by embarrassment when he noticed Mark. "I'm so sorry," David said, approaching the table. "My car wouldn't start, and then my phone died." "No explanation needed," Mark said, standing to shake David's hand. "I'm a single dad too. I understand completely." The gratitude in David's eyes was unmistakable. "Thank you for looking after them. I hope they weren't any trouble." "Not at all. In fact, they've been brightening my day." As David gathered the girls to leave, Lily turned to Mark. "Can we see you again sometime? Maybe you could teach Dad how to braid hair properly. Ours always come undone." David laughed, running a hand through his disheveled hair. "She's not wrong. I'm hopeless with hair." Mark found himself smiling genuinely for the first time that weekend. "I'd be happy to help. I've had lots of practice with my daughter." They exchanged numbers, and what began as a chance encounter blossomed into a friendship that neither man had realized they desperately needed. Over the following months, Mark became a regular fixture in the triplets' lives. He taught David how to master braided pigtails, while David showed Mark how to fix the leaky faucet in his apartment. They took turns watching each other's children when work schedules conflicted, and Sunday dinners became a tradition for their blended group. Emma, Mark's daughter, adored having 3 little sisters when she visited on weekends, and the triplets looked up to her with admiration. The 2 single fathers found strength in their shared experiences, supporting each other through the challenges of raising children alone. But their friendship wasn't without obstacles. 6 months after they met, David received notice that his landlord was selling the house they rented. With housing prices soaring and his limited income, he faced the possibility of moving to a different school district, or worse, a different city altogether. "I don't know what to do," David confessed one evening after the children had gone to bed. "The girls have already been through so much change. This neighborhood, their school, you and Emma, it's the stability they need." Mark sat quietly for a moment, an idea forming. His apartment had felt too large since the divorce, with rooms sitting empty most of the time. "What if you didn't have to move?" he suggested. "My place has enough space for all of us, if we get creative. It would be temporary, until you find something permanent, but it might give you some breathing room." David looked stunned. "You'd do that for us?" "That's what friends do," Mark replied simply. Besides, Emma would be thrilled to have the girls around more often. The transition wasn't seamless. Combining two households meant negotiating space, routines, and parenting styles. There were disagreements about bedtimes, chore assignments, and whose turn it was to cook dinner. The apartment felt cramped at times, especially when all 5 children were there together. But there were beautiful moments too: impromptu living room dance parties, weekend pancake competitions, and quiet evenings when both men could share the weight of parenthood instead of bearing it alone. 3 months stretched into 6, and then a year. What had begun as a temporary arrangement evolved into something neither man had expected: a chosen family, built on mutual respect and shared purpose. When David finally found an affordable house just blocks away, the decision to move out was bittersweet. The children had grown accustomed to their unconventional family unit, and even Mark and David had to admit that the thought of separate households felt strangely hollow. The night before the move, as they packed the last of the triplets' belongings, David paused. "You know," he said carefully, "the new place has a separate in-law unit in the back. It has its own entrance, kitchen, everything. It was one of the reasons I chose it." Mark looked up from the box he was taping. "Oh. I was thinking, if you wanted, you and Emma could take that space. We'd still have our own areas, but we'd be close." "For the kids, of course." "For the kids," Mark echoed, a smile spreading across his face. "I think that sounds perfect." 2 years after 3 little girls had approached a lonely man in a café, 2 families became one, not through marriage or blood, but through choice and circumstance. They created a new model of family that worked for them, defying conventions but embracing the fundamental truth that family is about love, support, and showing up for each other day after day. Mark often thought back to that fateful afternoon, marveling at how 3 little girls asking him to pretend to be their father had led to him finding a genuine family he never knew he needed. Life doesn't always follow the path we expect. Sometimes it takes unexpected detours that lead us exactly where we need to be. For Mark, David, and their children, that detour began with a simple request in a café, proving that family isn't always about who you're born to, sometimes it's about who you choose to walk through life with. If this story touched your heart, please remember to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories that celebrate the many ways we find connection and build families in this complex world. Sometimes the most beautiful families are the ones we create ourselves, one brave step at a time.